And we're live.
And we're live.
How you doing today, Sarge?
Doing pretty good. That's how you start your show, usually.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones that I've seen, it's usually and we're live. That's your thing.
It's become my thing.
Yeah.
Unless like I can develop a really decent conversation beforehand and we can just like hit record.
Yeah.
Those are usually pretty good too.
Yeah.
But and we're live is the
go-to.
The go-to.
We're always for Two Brothers One Mic, our podcast. We're always, we've been doing the same thing. My brother always leads in the same way.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, when we were audio, they couldn't see me, so then I would, but they're looking right at me now.
Yeah, it's weird.
And he's like, my brother Tony's here, Tony, and I'm like, oh, they already
know.
I already know I'm here, Joe. I'm sitting right here. What, am I supposed to pop up from the abyss or whatever?
You definitely should do that.
Yeah,
wear like a top hat or something.
Yeah, I told him, I said we should do like the Johnny. Now you might not remember the Johnny Carson show, where Ed McMahon would say, "Here's Johnny," and he would come out from behind the curtain. It's like we're talking about the dinosaur ages. Before Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel and all those guys.
Right.
Johnny Carson is the GOAT.
He's the man.
Yeah, he's the man. Him, and there was another guy before Johnny Carson, before my time.
Letterman?
Letterman was about the same time as Carson. Well, he was after Carson.
Okay.
But Carson was the man, and then Letterman came on a different network.
Right.
At one point, Letterman was supposed to take over for Carson.
Wow.
There was a big battle there, and there was a big falling out between Jay Leno and Dave Letterman. They had a big falling out. And I guess they made amends since, but I watched a documentary where Letterman was actually supposed to get that spot.
Wow.
And Jay Leno allegedly pulled some pretty shady stuff to get that spot.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought Letterman should have got that spot for the Tonight Show. He did the late show. Letterman did. Why am I having a hard time remembering? It's the guy who introduced the Beatles for the first time. And
let's see here, late night show.
I don't even think it was a late night show. Who's the guy who introduced the Beatles for the very first time when they first came to America? It's like it was a huge hit of a show. I see the guy, and
the audience is screaming right now.
Yeah. Yeah, if my mother's watching, she's probably calling me a moron.
Ed Sullivan?
Ed Sullivan Show.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Ed Sullivan Show.
1964.
Yeah. So he was around. The Carson was around even then.
Wow.
And then, I watched Carson when I was 9 years old, sleeping over my grandmother's. We had no choice, but it was a pretty cool show. He was he's the GOAT as far as I'm concerned.
That started in 1962.
The
Carson Show.
Yeah.
When were you born?
I was born in 70. So he was 8 years in.
Wow.
But I don't remember really watching Johnny Carson until like 77, 78.
Okay.
Like when Cher and Sonny and Cher were like big guests. Elton John, when he wore his feathers and had his big glasses. And these people were like in their early 20s when I was watching them on like the Johnny Carson show.
Wow.
I think Cher was like 15 the first time
insane.
I seen her. 16 when I first seen her on the Johnny Carson show and a couple other talk shows. So I don't know how old she is now, 107.
And she's dating like a 26-year-old.
Yeah. Well, she looks 26. She looks like the Bionic Woman. Like they put her in there, and you would see. I have names you wouldn't know. Lindsay Wagner was the Bionic Woman. Okay.
Yep. Don't know it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. She was the Bionic Woman, and then you had the Bionic Man. Well, Lindsay Wagner. I think it was Lindsay Wagner was the Bionic Woman. That was like a big hit show in the 70s. You didn't miss the Bionic Woman or the Bionic Man.
No.
You didn't miss that. So I'm glad I got all that out of the way. This has nothing to do about rising above, by the way, folks. We're just off the cuff right now.
We're just chatting.
I know. We sat down and I said, what are we talking about? I don't even know what we're talking about. We just did a podcast.
Yeah. What was that like?
We did, this is the first time I've ever done 2 podcasts in one day.
It's rough, isn't it?
It's different. It's different. But I'll tell you what, I'd rather do podcasts all day than do what we have to do right now all day, and then it's different when it's an obligation, as opposed to an opportunity,
right. Well, and it's something you enjoy too.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I've done a couple different podcasts in one day, like I did your podcast the day I lost my voice, and I also did a podcast earlier that day, and like it's enjoyable, it's fun, but the thing is, it's like mentally taxing.
Yeah.
It's different. Like it wears you out in a different way.
Yeah. I know Rogan talks about it because he does like 4 or 5 a day.
Yeah.
5 or 6 a day, 2.5 hours each. So I think that's why he likes that that product that he supports and promotes so much. Alpha is it Alpha Brain?
Alpha Brain, yeah.
Alpha Brain.
Yeah, that stuff's awesome.
Yeah, I keep thinking about trying it just to see what it's all about.
They have other ones too. Like they have oh crap, you can just buy like some cheaper ones at Meijer. Yeah. I've tried those before. I take them before podcasts, and it really does help. Yeah, gives you a boost of energy.
I'm thinking about doing it.
Get a little bit of mental clarity.
Yeah, for sure. He swears by it, and in the beginning you're like, okay, Joe, it's your product, or it's something you're getting paid for.
Right.
But I hear nothing but good things about it.
Yeah. So, no, I've taken it before, and it's been a while, but yeah, it's really good stuff.
Yeah.
And it tastes good if you mix it in with some water.
He was saying, he said if he doesn't take that before his podcast, he's screwed. Like literally, he's in trouble.
Well, I mean, the topics that he's discussing are so like in depth. Yeah. Like it's got to be so, and he does it for 3 hours. That's got to be so mentally taxing.
When you have Jordan Peterson on your show, you better be on your game.
Yeah,
because that guy brings a whole different mentality to.
Well, and when you have the U.S. government who's trying to shut you down, you definitely have to be on your game.
Yeah, shut him down. Either that or. I can't remember his name now. Hall of Fame rock and roller. I can't think of it. Neil.
Neil Young.
Neil Young, yeah. Just to make people mad, I just throw that out there.
Do you think he's on Spotify again?
I bet he is. Somebody told me that he was trying to get back on Spotify, which I don't think he would have to try real hard.
No.
I mean, Neil Young, listen, you have to have a certain feel for that genre. Neil Young is a rock and roll Hall of Famer. I mean, from the 70s, and There's a few of his songs that I liked. I wasn't a huge Neil Young fan, but I could see why people love Neil Young. I guess I have to be in a certain mood to listen to a couple of his songs, but I could see why Spotify would want him back. I mean, there's got to be millions of people that would want him back on Spotify.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Neil Young. It's just ridiculous, the avenue he tried to take because, he's upset.
I mean, we've talked about it before, but that whole cancel culture thing, like I'm not going to be a part of that just because you've talked about this or you said that. It's like, stop. What are you doing? You can't
listen.
You can't deplatform people that way.
Yeah. You can't. I mean, don't listen. It's that simple. Don't listen
and don't engage.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't do that, if you turn it off, when I'm reading a post sometimes and it's getting on it's irritating. It's only human nature that someone's going to say something to irritate somebody.
Yeah.
Right. So if somebody is saying something and I don't agree, I've caught myself several times where I'll start typing. I'll get 3 paragraphs in and then I'll look in the mirror at myself. Well, not really look in the mirror, but I'll think to myself, what are you doing? I mean, and I'll probably call myself a few choice names. Why are you going to hit send here? Because I've hit send and then
removed it.
Edit, delete, gone. Yeah. Because it's like, they're not going to respond to that properly.
And it just makes you look bad too.
Yeah.
When I was going through that controversy with that guy I interviewed, so many people were blowing up my posts, and one of my comments back to this one lady who would not, like, she kept posting, like, purposely just trying to dig at me.
Yeah.
And taking personal shots too. And my response to her name was Karen. And so I said, okay, Karen. And then I was like, I should probably just remove that.
Yeah.
Just whatever.
Yeah. Because when we're sitting now, as hosts of podcasts, people expect you when that's your platform, people say to you, well, you should be able to take that. You shouldn't be so sensitive to that when somebody attacks you. You should learn how to handle that in a more adult type of way. And it just makes me laugh because it's adults that are saying that while they're attacking you.
That is a very good point.
So what you're saying to me is you're acting like a child.
And I can't defend myself.
I can't defend myself because it's my platform. I have to act more professional.
Right.
But you're acting like an idiot.
Right.
But it's okay though because it's not your platform.
Have you guys had any controversy like that?
We haven't, and people are upset about that. We've had people that'll say to us, "You need to get they don't like the fact that me and Joe agree on most things. I mean, except our childhood. Like we argue about that all the time." I think we were going back and forth with you when you were on the show last.
You guys were.
Yeah, and it's all in fun and humor. I tell you what, I told Joe if we would have did this podcast when we were in our teen years back in the 70s, early to late 80s, it would have been way different because we would have been going over the table. I think, if I'm not mistaken, my mom and dad would tell you, I guarantee you, me and Joe got in more than 40 fist fights. growing up, like all out swinging melees. And you would never know that now. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it stopped. I retired. Like I literally had a press conference in the middle of the neighborhood. I put a table down. I called everybody out. And it was because we got into it one time in the front yard. I don't remember why. It had to be something stupid. And my record was pretty good against Joe. It was pretty good. I had the older brother psych on him, right? So he was like my older brother. And so that's always, and then I think one day he just got tired and he put me in a leg lock and I couldn't get out. I mean, like could not get out. He had me, I could not get out. And when they broke it up and I said, I just went right to the press conference table and I said, tears in my eyes. I concede. I'm stepping out. I'm stepping back now. I'm going to reevaluate my career. And yeah, I knew that the fight was getting tougher. And the tougher it was getting, I was like, I think I better stop. I think he's getting more and more serious now. So, but I told him, I said, if we would have had a podcast back then, we'd have 18 million subscribers watching us like break. We probably would be on our 18th laptop or 30th mic set. It was just crazy. My mom would go nuts. We had a dog, Jasper. Jasper had anxiety. And I'm not even kidding you. He had anxiety. So when we got in a fight, it freaked him out. He would start biting us. So we're fighting, and while we're on the ground rolling around throwing punches, I'm getting bit. Joe's getting bit. My mom's screaming, "Gosh!" She's yelling for my dad. My dad's like, "Get in the yard, get out of the house!" So we fight we look like WWE. We're like off the back porch into the backyard. The stories, stitches. I remember Joe hitting his head on the stove one time. It was just, it was ridiculous. And so when people see us now doing podcasts, they're like, wow, I would have never thought.
You guys settled all your beef.
Yeah, but that was a long time ago too, though.
Yeah. I think having that kind of childhood, it helps formulate your relationship. So like you have this like bond, it creates a bond. It really does. Yeah. Like as you get older.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll tell you, it's amazing. I never really looked at Joe as somebody who would get in front of a camera. He's always been the guy behind the camera. That's what he does. He's a technical advisor. He does camera, videography, website development, drone work. And so I never saw him. I saw him as the guy behind the camera, me doing a podcast and him doing the editing. And then he said, well, why don't I step in? And I thought this isn't going to work. But I got to tell you, when I watched our show, to critique it, he's better than I am. I really believe that his voice, he has a command. His voice commands the room, and he is the person who kind of does all the introduction. And I do a lot of the interviewing part of it. Yeah. But when we have our one-on-ones and we're talking, he brings a ton to the table. It's not like he just sits there and stares at me. Yeah. Like he's catatonic or something.
It's got to add it gives you a good vibe, something that you can go off of. Because that's one thing that's hard about this kind of podcast where it's just me. I gotta think about all the questions. Yeah. Whereas if you have two people and you can kind of vibe, and especially because you guys have that relationship, you have that brotherhood that you can kind of go back into your childhood and reflect on things. Right. I think it makes it easier and more fun.
It gives us extra to add to what we're trying to bring to the table. Yeah. So in the Rising Above podcast, and you continue to add to that platform. You're adding podcasts to your network. Yeah. You being the host of those podcasts. Yeah. Not just other podcasts, from other people. Right. But when we first started this, everybody thought this Two Brothers, One Mic, and we were promoting it as a health and nutrition. You have to pick something for everybody out there who's thinking about doing podcasts. You have to find a specific genre in the industry. They want to know what your genre is going to be. So we picked health and fitness because a lot of our show is about health and fitness. But I think what people thought was, when we talked about the ketogenic diet, when we talked about intermittent fasting, when we talked about calories versus insulin, we were talking about high intensity interval training, yoga, volume versus intensity in your workouts. And then we started adding things like feel good stories, great stories, and we just talked about them. Then we started finding people to interview who were the actual characters in this, real feel good story. Right. And just like interviewing you, right? Yeah. When you told your story when we first interviewed you. And now we're going a little bit further and diving a little deeper into things like we talk about parenting in the 40s and 50s and 60s as opposed to parenting today.
Oh boy.
What's the real problem? And sometimes we get into scripture, we get into the Bible, and we talk a lot about that, what may be missing when it comes to that. And so some people think, okay, I didn't know this was a religious podcast. The podcast is mind, body, and spirit. It's what makes you the best you.
Right.
You could be, I tell people, you can want to exercise, you could want to eat right, but if your mind's not right, and I think all these other shows we're doing, like when we talk about social media, if you're sitting there all day on social media arguing with people, you're not in the weight room, right?
Yeah.
You're not in the weight room.
Distracted.
You're distracted.
Yeah.
You're not eating right. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're not out there being the best you. You're out there, and I think we always make it known to everybody that we're not people that are saying we're up here.
Right.
You're down here.
Right.
We're saying we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Like we put ourselves on the clock and say, listen, we're being very transparent. I tell people all the time, social media, if it was up to me, I would get off Facebook. Like I would just be on our Two Brothers One Mic page and maybe my page because I train athletes. So maybe those two pages, and I would engage with people in that manner. Or, a lot of people engage with me on TikTok right now. Not a lot, but it's starting to grow little by little. And Joe has us on Instagram. He has us on Twitter. I'm not on any of that. The personal page I have, the only one I have is Facebook. And I try to keep it light on Facebook. I try to joke. Most of my posts are about the podcast, they're feel-good stories. Sometimes I'll post a joke. Some people don't know how to take the joke sometimes. And I one thing I've gotten better at, let me tell you something. One night, about 8:00 at night, it started. Somebody posted something about the LeBron James, Michael Jordan argument. Have you ever seen these non-stop banters of why Jordan is better than LeBron or why LeBron is better than Jordan?
No.
It's an unbelievable. I got dragged right into this thing, and
they sucked you in?
I had a 6-paragraph post on there, and the one guy was right. He came on. He's like, I ain't got time to read that, and he was right, And then I thought to myself, I went on from 8 until almost 1:00 in the morning.
Oh my God.
Never did that again. I said, what am I doing? I went on and erased all of my, all my stuff. And it got to the point where people it went from why I was disagreeing with them to they're going to take my last name now and they're going to start.
Right.
Right. They're going to start making fun. I'm like, okay, now it's a personal thing. And it got stupid.
Yeah. The thing with social media though, it's like, it kind of like enhances those kind of conversations. Like they want you to disagree with each other because that's what gets attention. That's what gets likes. Like if you post something that is like controversial or something that is like, I don't know, funny or whatever, like that gets more attention than something like if you were to post about like your podcast or something. Like people aren't as interested in that.
No.
And they're definitely not as interested in feel good stories as negative stories.
Yeah. There's a show that was on Netflix. I don't know if it still is. I haven't seen it yet. Joe watched it. When we did our show on our podcast about social media.
The Social Dilemma?
The Social Dilemma.
That's a good show.
That's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't watched it yet, but Joe talked all about it on the podcast. And obviously I'm there listening.
That was a couple of years ago too, and that was before like TikTok was big.
Yeah. So basically, what a lot of people don't understand is that they're looking at what are David Hess's interests. We're going to make sure he gets bombarded
with that.
If you don't like Joe Biden, they're going to make sure that every funny Joe Biden TikTok comes your way.
Yeah.
If I don't like Donald Trump, they're going to make sure that every funny Donald Trump TikTok comes my way.
Was he arrested, by the way?
Which time?
Donald Trump. Was he arrested this week?
So I'm being a little bit sarcastic. Probably not.
I got to look that up.
Look that up. He was supposed to be arrested, I thought Tuesday. I thought he was supposed to be arrested yesterday. I'm sorry. It's getting bizarre. It really is. I've never seen anything. It's very interesting. The way what does it say?
I don't know. It says he expects to be arrested.
Yeah, he did say that.
So it's over the Stormy Daniel case?
It's over that. I thought there was a limitation on that. Like,
it says how Trump could be indicted, what to know about the hush money case.
Here's what I don't understand.
I don't care enough to read about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that goes into that, and I don't know enough about it to talk about it. But, there's a statute of limitations, I thought, at some point when it comes to the legality issue here. Number one. Number two, I'm not sure I understand what he did that has anything to do with his presidency. And folks, I'm not talking about moral issues here.
I mean, do you think it's like a political move?
Yeah, I think it's yes. I mean, and disagree, agree, whatever you guys want to do out there, but it's very much a political move. After a while, when you watch somebody under attack and they're trying to get him for this and for this and for this and for this, it starts to make me think one thing. You're afraid of this person for some reason. Why are you afraid of him so much? What are you afraid of in 2024? Because you're looking for anything. They're looking into something with the IRS and tax fraud when it comes to the Stormy Daniels case now. I don't know exactly, and I'm going to leave it right there because I haven't really watched it enough because I don't pay too much attention to stuff like this. But they're trying to take whatever those allegations were from how many years ago, and they're trying to apply them now. I don't know the gentleman's name, the attorney. That's.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
And I think he's from New York, but they're trying to apply that to some type of tax fraud or tax evasion or something. Yeah, it's just I don't understand. Like what exactly are you trying to do?
Right.
Like, I understand that you don't like the man, you don't like his policies, you don't like his demeanor, but to me, it's that you're afraid that there's something about him that could in the long run cause major problems for your party because he knows something.
Well, I don't know if it's just that. I think it's the fact that he's like anti-establishment. The fact that he went against all the establishments that were initially installed into the freaking government. I mean, you've seen when Biden took office how he like had all these direct orders that he
33 of them, I think, in the first 16 hours.
Like
and I'm exaggerating.
We're inadvertently in a war with Ukraine now after we pulled out of Afghanistan. Like it's crazy. We're sending billions of dollars over there. It's wild.
I think it's sad when it comes to Ukraine because there's innocent people dying, and you see these kids. They show this travesty over there. Those kids didn't do anything to anybody. It's horrible. And there's a lot of those adults, innocent people that are caught in the crossfire.
Right.
Right. And it's obviously going to tug on the heartstrings of so many people over here when you see stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what's bad. But I don't think that we have a clear understanding. And I mean, not only the people that are, free Ukraine. I'm talking about everybody. I don't think we have a clear understanding of exactly what's going on. When it comes to the president of the Ukraine and this involvement. There's too many. Every time they point out a truth, every time they point out money being manipulated into one account and then delivered into another account and then back to this individual right here, and I'm just not even saying names, and everybody just
yeah.
Why is everybody downplaying that? Why isn't that important? Well, at least it's not Donald Trump. What does that mean? It's so weird. It's not even that I think Donald Trump is the
amazing,
greatest, is an amazing human being.
Right.
It's that I don't understand why
you're
allowing this group of people to do what they're doing and you're okay with it just because it's not Donald Trump.
Right.
It's very bizarre.
It is bizarre.
It's very bizarre.
Yeah. Someone clearly broke the law and that they're not doing anything about it.
No. I mean, or maybe they are and we're just waiting. I don't know. But how many times now has there been accusations and then proof but nothing.
Right.
So, I mean,
do you guys talk about politics on your podcast?
You don't see us do this right here.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll say something.
Yeah.
And we'll just kind of look at each other. And I think people realize, and then I'll go anyway, and Joe go, yeah, let's not go down that. But we really don't. We did get into it somewhat with some of the like with the parenting, and we did get into it a little bit with.
What did you guys discuss with the parenting?
So we talked a lot about what is presented to us now, as opposed to
like the different factors.
Sure, like in the 1940s, there was a show called My Three Sons, Okay, you had a dad, you had 3 boys, and I think the grandfather.
Can't have that today.
Yeah, and so, but the dad, and then you had Leave It to Beaver. Okay, and so you had Ward Beaver. He was the dad, very much in charge of his household. His 2 sons literally mirrored their father. Every time there was a problem, Ward sat down. Sometimes his wife would be there too. All right, but it was a different structure in the home then. And let's face it, it was the mom was the homemaker. She didn't go out and work, right? And the dad went out and worked. And if you had boys, the dad sat down and taught the life lesson to the boys. Sometimes the mom did, depending on what it was. But at the end of every episode, it was always Ward sitting down with the Beaver or with Wally and explaining to them where they went wrong and how they need to right the wrong. And the kids would understand. And that was the shows, even the Brady Bunch. Mike Brady, when you watch him, he had 6 kids, okay, 3 boys, and then he married and had the 3 girls that joined the family. And Mike Brady was very involved in the family dynamic. He was an architect. He had an in-home office too, and the kids were always coming in, girls and the boys, to sit down. And the mom was involved too. Even the housekeeper Alice was involved. But Mike Brady had control of the home. He had control of his home, not a dictatorship, but a control where, as a leader of the home, there was a democracy, but there was an understanding that dad was he was the go-to. Okay, right. When in times of problems, that's where they went, and that's who they sat down with, and he was the one who always had some resolve for them. Now you have Homer Simpson. Now you have Peter. What's his name?
Peter Griffin.
Peter Griffin. You had Al Bundy in the 80s. Okay, you got these guys that are dunces, okay? And Ed O'Neill, by the way, is from my hometown.
Really?
Yes, he is. Yeah. He went to a high school literally 5 minutes from my house.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and don't get me wrong, I was a huge fan of that show, Married with Children, and as him as an actor. But you got the father. He has no control over the kids. The kids control the house. He just sits on the couch and just makes dumb comments that we all laugh at, right? And the kids control the situation.
Where do you think it changed? I mean, obviously it changed then, but
yeah, what
was the defining? Did you guys research that?
We didn't research when it changed
or why it changed.
So something that was different is in the 70s. That's when women began to go into the workforce. Women began to not control the workforce, but they said, hey, listen, we can do what you're doing. Right. There was a huge movement in the 70s. By 79, divorce rate was up higher than it is now. You know how people say half the people that get married now get divorced? That's false. Right now, only like 2.3 to 2.5 out of every 1,000 people are divorced.
Wow.
Back then, it was like almost 6 out of every 1,000 by the late 1970s.
The women were shacking up with coworkers?
It's nothing against the women. It's more because the women were more, they felt more empowerment, right?
Right, yeah.
More self-actualization, and they said to themselves.
They felt like they didn't need a man.
And the men that was a problem. That was a conflict.
Right.
And so that's what was causing that problem.
Yeah.
But so you have that divide in the home. And with that divide in the home, you start maybe having that divide with children. Or you don't have a divide in the home, but both parents are working now. So kids have to figure it out for themselves. Right. I could tell you at a younger age, both my mother and father worked. And me, my brother and sister, we got home from school when I was in 8th grade. And my sister was in maybe 6th or 5th grade. My brother was in 4th grade, 5th grade. And we figured it out for about 45 minutes to an hour until mom and dad got home from work.
Right.
You do that now, and they want to call children's services and take everybody away. The neighbors on the news talking about how they never knew you were like that. And so, it's so different today because the dynamic is different, and there's different obstacles now. Social media is a huge problem. And this is something that I think as time goes on, you'll see more of. My 13-year-old, he gets really decent, good grades in school, plays basketball. He can't do anything without that phone in his hand. Like, it's an all-out war to get that phone out of his hand. to do anything.
Yeah, my kids are the same way with their tablets.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I kind of get it though. Like I get it. I'm addicted to my phone.
We all are.
Like I mean, I use the excuse that I have a podcast or I have this I need to promote, I have that. I'm always doing something, it seems like, on my phone or on the computer or on the tablet.
Yeah.
Always something. But then I'm like scrolling in between.
Right.
I'm addicted. Like everybody's addicted. That's part of the game. Like being on social media, that's what they do. They grab your attention. They keep dragging you in. And I can't imagine like what it would be like for somebody who's young. Like
it's what they know.
Yeah. It's what they know, but it's so enticing.
It is. I mean, when I was younger, when Atari came out, that was huge. That was like, I mean, that joystick, I don't know, my hands were like, my fingers felt like they did after a day's work at General Motors, right? I mean, but we played, whatever games, Donkey Kong came out and that was like, Pac-Man came out and it was like, wow. But it was like an hour and then that was it. And then it was back outside and there was ColecoVision and you had like these little handheld games. You could play football, basketball, and it was so simplistic as compared to today, right?
Right.
But it wasn't our main thing. It wasn't like what we were drawn to like be on for hours and hours and hours.
Right.
And, I grew up in a neighborhood of about 18 kids. And then they drew in, each kid drew in another 2 or 3. My mom was talking to the neighbors. I don't know how long ago this was when they were all talking. And they were just talking about how they were having their wine night, right? All the kids are gone.
Right.
The wine night, they were sitting on somebody's porch in the summer. And just how quiet the neighborhood was. Because around 8:30 at night in the summer, kick the can was going on over here. There's everything, freeze tag was going on over there.
Right.
People were, it was just kids all over the neighborhood. And you're in everybody's yard. Nobody cared.
Right.
Nobody cared.
Yeah.
Now it's play dates. You've got to set up a play date. And I'm like, what does that mean? Just get on your bike. Like my 10-year-old Jordan, he'll say, can I have a play date with Joe up the street? And Jordan, get on your bike, go knock on the door and say, Joe, you want to come outside?
Oh, that's funny.
And I got to text his mom. Then his mom's got to let me know whether or not Joe can come outside.
Right.
It's so bizarre.
One of the most crazy things I ever experienced was during COVID. How the kids were in lockdown, they were forced to do school on Zoom and whatnot. We set up a play date for my daughter with a kid from school that we had never met over Zoom. So
play date over Zoom.
Play date over Zoom. So each of them were playing with their toys. Like, look at this toy. Look at this toy. This is my bedroom. I was like, what?
I hate that because...
What are we doing?
Yeah, because here's the problem with that. The purpose of social interaction is to teach kids how to be able to interact with other people. They can easily, right there, just close the laptop when you're mad at them.
Yeah.
But if you get mad at each other because you're angry, you have to work it out.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we get into an argument right now, you and I have to solve this.
We have to solve this. We're in an enclosed room.
Right.
I mean, I can get up and walk out, and that would make for great ratings, maybe, and everybody would be waiting for me to come back. Maybe we should have talked about this beforehand. But it's this desensitized. It's very desensitizing to see how these kids are. Do they still interact? Yeah, they have to go to school together. We tried to stop that.
Yeah.
At one point, that experiment didn't work. and I said this before on my podcast. I'm not saying that every kid should have been in school at the heart of COVID.
Right.
I'm saying they did try, due to that, they did try to see, hey, can we do this where everyone is homeschooled now?
Right.
And it didn't work.
It didn't work.
It didn't work at all. And if it was thank God, because you want to talk about being desensitized. I mean, they wouldn't even know what it's like to be in front of other human beings.
Yeah. I mean, my daughter had to start school as a kindergartner online.
I remember you telling me about that.
That was so wild.
Yeah.
Like well, for one, she's behind now because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like something we've been having to try to catch her up now because like she's learning on a screen. She's like watching the teacher who's boring. Mm-hmm. She's not interesting whatsoever.
That could be a problem.
Yeah. And then she's off playing or doing whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, it was not fair for those kids.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't talk to you about it. You talked to somebody on one of your podcast shows that I was watching. The lady who was talking about education.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I can't remember what show that was now.
Ironically, she does online schooling.
Yeah, that was the one. That was the one. Yeah. Okay, so listening to her in the podcast, she seems like a little more energetic.
Yeah.
She seems like passionate about it.
She seems fun.
So I could see that and understand it. I guess when you're somebody who went to school their whole life and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah.
It's just hard to get me to transfer over to understanding how that works, because I really do believe someday that's the route we're going to take.
And I mean, everything's going to be virtual one day.
Yeah.
It's crazy, it's scary. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know how.
I think the only way that I would be okay with that is, like, if I were to pull my kids out of school and homeschool them, it would only be because of safety and the fact that I don't want them to get shot, from like a school shooter.
And we talked about the school shooting thing last time that I was here.
Did we?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
we talked
did.
about
That's right.
Was it Uvalde? Yeah.
Yeah.
Texas.
Well, since then we had that threat, Okemos schools.
There was Vermont. There was here in Michigan.
It was all over Michigan.
Yeah.
It was
they caught the person, I thought.
Did they?
I thought they caught the individual who was making the calls.
I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, I thought.
I didn't hear anything about
that. And
then,
of course, I'm laying in bed and hear, take cover, lock all your doors while I'm up here in Michigan. I'm maybe 5 minutes from Michigan State University. The one night that tragedy happened right on campus there with the gentleman who, I don't know how many lives were lost. Was it five or?
Yeah, three.
Three
died, and then
2 or 3 were injured.
Yeah, I believe so. There's one left in critical condition. And,
still.
Yeah, and another one was released today, I seen.
You're just sitting there studying. You're sitting on campus, or you're it's an evening and you're just hanging out on campus with your friends and being goofy.
Yeah.
You're just releasing some energy after a long week of studying. And some guy just walks in what was the reason? Because he took his own life.
Yeah. He left a note, which was disturbing. And they redacted a bunch of information, but he left a note, and he pretty much was saying that I'm going to shoot a bunch of people at MSU, and I'm going to continue to do this at other schools. He had another school in New Jersey that he wanted to do it at, and he had ties to New Jersey at some point. But then he also said that there was like a list of 20 people that were also going to carry out shootings all across the United States.
Were their names on this, or he said there's a list somewhere?
I don't know if their names were on there. There was a bunch of information that was redacted. But one of the other places that were supposed to be shot up was in Old Town in Lansing.
Yeah.
And then in Colorado as well. So it's crazy. And then he had talked about how he's tired of being like disrespected, and he essentially is a nobody, and he wants to be known or something like that.
Yeah. It's ironic. Again, we have a clinical psychologist that comes on our show, Dr. Nicole Rentilla. And we talked about our fascination with serial killers and even just true crime in general. Obviously, that situation at Michigan State is not a serial killer. Serial killing is when you kill, I think it's between 3 and 5 different times in a short time period. Not that what happened there is a mass killing at Michigan State.
Right.
But what is it that? I don't think it's because, I would like to think it's not because people think it's great. Like, wow, this is great, media. This is great stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Order a pizza and let's watch this. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think it's because Dr. Nicole explained, it's our inability when she talked about it, and she talked about the different parts of the brain and the cortex and the frontal lobe. We're trying to process, because as human beings, we try to fix things. So we're literally fascinated because we're trying to understand what that person is thinking, so that we can figure out what needs to be done to fix it.
Right.
So that's what the fascination is.
Yeah.
And then we also talked about what is their fascination with it, and the different types of mental illness that these people have. Because really, we sit back and watch this. I think about people that I don't want to use the word hate, because that's a strong word. Hate is a very strong word. You're really at a point where you can care less what happens to somebody. I'd say dislike and disagree, right? I would never in my in my life think about doing something like that to them.
Yeah.
I mean, it would never even cross my mind.
Right.
And so it just baffles me when I watch this. If you, we talked about, the show's called Preventing Dahmer, the Two Brothers One Mic show that we did.
Oh, okay.
And it's all about, it's not just about him. It's about Bundy. It's about, Manson.
Right.
It's about Jack the Ripper. It's about all these people. And what their fascination was with it. The interesting thing about Charles Manson, as we go all over the place here, but I thought this was really interesting. When you talk about Bundy and you talk about Dahmer and you talk about Jack the Ripper and there's so many more, you're talking about the people that actually committed the crimes. Manson never committed the actual physical act. He actually got into the minds of all these women who came from broken homes and made them believe that he was there to protect them, to take care of them. And in order to do that, they were to get rid of these people who were a bad thing on society.
Yeah.
And so
he drugged them.
He drugged
with
them,
LSD.
Yeah. And sent them off to do this. So that's even scarier.
Yeah.
That's even worse, if you ask me.
Rogan had this guy on his podcast, but he wrote, I think his name's Tom O'Neill, but he wrote a book called Chaos Theory, and it's all about the Manson murders.
Okay.
And it's about this guy, this journalist who was covering a story about it, but then ended up diving so deep into that story and spent 20 years researching it and ended up writing this book called Chaos Theory. I wish I could pull it up. My tablet died. But yeah, it's essentially about the LSD studies at Harvard and how they, he kept going to prison or jail and they kept getting him out and drugging him. It's wild.
Wow.
It's a wild story.
It's amazing to I don't even know.
And the CIA was involved in it.
The CIA was involved.
Yeah, they were the ones doing the LSD studies on Manson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were drugging him.
Wow.
And providing him with the LSD to drug the women.
So that they can run these studies?
Yeah. Yeah, they would drug Johns that went into brothels.
Yeah.
And pretty much take advantage of them and then just let them go to see what they would do.
Wow. And this is a proven
Yeah, it's proven.
That's amazing.
The brothel that is mentioned in the book was open until just recently, until the book came out, and then they shut it down. Yeah. It's wild.
That is wild.
I really wish I could look it up. My tablet died.
Phone? Would your phone be able to do it?
Yeah, I won't be able to show it on the screen, though.
Oh, okay. I see. Oh, I did notice that. Now you have a situation where when you're doing something, you put it up on the screen.
Yeah,
I think nice. So the new thing you have, you and Nick Hall and the other two gentlemen.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I had the name in my head. The Laugh Act. Was it the Laugh?
No, it's it's called the Triple Stack Laugh Shack.
Laugh Shack. Yeah, that's it. I noticed that when I watched that 2-hour episode, I noticed that you were doing that. You were popping things up on the screen. So how did that all start? Now I'm interviewing you.
Well,
how did that start?
What was fun? Well, it's actually kind of funny because we had a normal break one day at work, and we're all sitting at a break table, just chatting, bullshitting, joking around, having a great time, like you're supposed to on a normal break.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we should record. This would be an awesome podcast if we could record this. Maybe we should do a podcast. You guys want to do a podcast? I have a studio. Why not? And so everybody's like, yeah, we'll do it. And we've been talking about it for probably 2 months now. Well, then finally I'm like, we need to schedule it. So we scheduled it, and it was, we did one episode. And it was just Rick, the big guy, and Nick. They were here, and it was awkward. It was just weird. We talked a lot about work, and we were really drunk. So we were like, yeah, we probably shouldn't release that one. so we scratched that one, and then we scheduled again and had Forrest on. And I think having Forrest on added a whole different vibe.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was, I don't know, it was kind of me I don't know.
Almost forcing
the conversation. And I was doing essentially what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And I don't want that for another podcast. I don't want it to be me being the host and interview. I want us all to just kind of.
There's a lot of comedy podcasts out there.
Yeah.
Where it's just comedians and they're just sitting in chairs and they got the mic right there and they're they're going all over the place with whatever. And I look and I'm like, 1.3 million views. These guys aren't talking about anything. The one guy's got his shirt off. What's his name? Bert
Kreischer. Yeah.
And abs is still. Yeah. And it's hilarious because it's amazing. We want to know what other people are talking about.
Yeah, we really do.
We do.
Yeah.
Me and Joe were trying to figure that out. Like when we look and see the thousands of listens that we've gotten.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? It's so, and Joe's like, people want to know what we want to say.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I don't look at like my podcast as anything interesting. Like I don't think I'm an interesting person. I think the interesting person is the guest. Like I'm like, they're not listening because of me. They're listening because
thank you. I appreciate it.
They want to hear the guest. Yeah. So,
well, I think, but to draw them to the guests, they have to know the host, and they have to enjoy the host.
Right.
If the host is not doing their job, according to the customer, right, to the people listening, then they're not going to ever really listen to the guest.
Right. Exactly.
So, I mean, you have your certain situations like, so Rogan or anybody, if Jordan Peterson was going to be on Two Brothers, One Mic on our podcast, they wouldn't care. Nobody.
They don't care about you.
There'd be 20.5 million people,
right?
Just because Jordan Peterson has something to say,
right?
And that's one smart individual right there. When he talks, sometimes I'm like, let me rewind this, and get a gist of what he's talking about here because he's going deep here.
Yeah, I enjoy Jordan Peterson a lot. Yeah,
there's a book. Is there a book you're reading right now, or somebody was talking on your Rising Above community page?
My friend Tyler, he's reading I think the 12 Steps or something like that by Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. That's definitely something I might want to dive into eventually. I saw that. I've heard him talk. I don't know how. Anytime I see him on social media, I stop because he's always saying something.
He's so smart.
He'll go in so many. When he talks about the universe, and he talks about what's beyond the universe. I mean, I'm like, what is this guy's background?
I mean, he's a psychologist.
He's a psychologist, but you would. I mean, he sounds like a NASA scientist on top of a theologian, on top of a mathematician, on top.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing.
Well, he worked at a university in Canada, right?
Is that where they removed him?
Yeah, he just recently got removed, and I think was being sued at some point.
Yeah, he did. So he talks about it sometimes. I don't know if he really gets deep into it because of legality issues.
Right.
So, and it might be over now for all I know. God bless you.
Thank you.
So yeah, podcasting is, it's very tricky.
It's tricky, but it's one of those things. I was just talking to somebody about it. Who was it? I was talking to somebody because podcasts, it's one of those things where you can literally talk about whatever. It's not TV. Like you're not on a show, so you don't have to worry about, all right, on 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you have to be formal and you can't joke, you can't make a mistake.
Right.
It has to be perfect. Whereas a podcast, it's like a hang. You're hanging out with your friend or you're interviewing somebody and you can just talk about whatever. It's so informal.
Right.
We were just talking about the intros. It doesn't matter what your intro is. It really doesn't.
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't.
If somebody were to tell you this is the right way to do it, they're wrong because every podcaster has a different intro.
Yeah. There are some things that people have to understand. Your podcast will not work if you don't do certain things.
Like what?
Content, I think, is huge. If you're putting out one show every 3 months, it's not going to work.
Is it a podcast at that point?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's a hobby, really.
Yeah.
We put out one a week. Our 100th episode is coming up. Well, if you count our season-ending episodes where we just do reviews on what we talked about and where the show's going, we're over 100 now.
Okay.
So it's crazy, but here we are. You're way over 100. The content is huge because here's the thing for anybody who's getting into a podcast. The beauty of a podcast is once you have that show in your bank, it's there forever.
Yeah.
So if 50 people next month check out Two Brothers, One Mic, check out the Rising Above podcast with Dave Hess, they check it out. And now they start looking back. These shows that you already have there that have been there, they're getting viewed.
Yeah.
They're getting viewed.
Yeah.
And so you have a work already in place, an artwork that's in place. It's kind of like people going to a museum and seeing a painting.
Right.
And as they're walking by and more people are seeing that same painting, that painting doesn't go away.
Right.
The painting just stays there, and more people come and see the painting. So our show where we talk about agonist and antagonist muscle movements when you're working out and what the importance of that is.
Yeah.
That show last week, that show was 9 months ago. Last week I saw 4 or 5 more people listen to the show. Like they found it. And then I could tell when people are binging because all of a sudden when I look at the analytics, I'm a numbers guy. Joe tells me stop looking at all the analytics, but I love looking at the graphs and seeing like the spikes who's watching us. And I think it's cool that 3% of our audience is in Germany.
That is cool.
It is cool. Yeah. I mean, I saw a guy named Pat Flynn. I'll get back to that in a second, but it's just amazing how, you do a show and 5 years from now, you don't know what'll happen. That show might blow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might blow up and you'll think it's something you're doing now and working on.
Yeah.
And they'll say to you, hey, you remember when you interviewed that gentleman who sued that institution in the state of Michigan and the autistic gentleman?
Yeah.
And,
Richard Prangley.
Dude, that show's viral. There's like 1.6 million people watching that right now because he's on the Johnny Carson show, right? or Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Right.
So it's kind of crazy that, you can't ever look at your work that you're doing as once I'm done with it, it's done. Right. It stays with you.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of the cool thing.
It's cool and it could be bad.
Well, yeah, there's that too. I know, like with Rogan, when he got in trouble for saying a couple of things that were a little derogatory in nature, he didn't mean it that way. It came off pretty bad.
But it's a body of work that you have that you can kind of like bank on and stand on. Like people can go back and watch and listen. That's one thing that a lot of people tell me. Like I've had a couple of people tell me, like when they find my podcast, like, oh, I have to go back to the beginning. I'm like, don't go to the beginning. Like it was rough.
We pushed that in the beginning. We said follow the journey.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, who's going back? Well, there's one guy I know. He's like on episode 13 now. And I said to him, Dustin, you don't need to. He's like, I'm listening to every show. I said, well, you might not like all the topics. And he said, I don't want to miss anything. So we gave him a shout out on the one show. We said cool. If there's ever an award. So by the time he gets there, I'll be retired, though. The podcast will be closed down by the time he gets to it. It's like episode 96, and he's on episode 15.
That's fine.
But he likes it because that's the thing. With podcasts, people binge.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's going to be a week where they're painting inside their house, they'll listen to like 9 of your episodes while they're painting.
And that's the beautiful thing about podcasts because like you can choose to not listen to it for a long time and then just be like, I'll just go listen to that some other time.
It's weird. If you watch the analytics, it's so crazy. It's like one week you're like,
that episode didn't do good.
And then all of a sudden, it's hundreds of people or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, what happened?
I don't typically pay attention to my analytics. Like I'll watch like downloads or views, but like as far as like watching the spikes and getting it,
it's a huge issue for me. Like it's like I get drawn in by the numbers. I'm a math guy, and Joe's just, I'll text him, hey, and he's just like, he'll send me the rolling eye. Like whatever. But
what do you guys have planned for the show? Like, are you guys planning on taking it anywhere? Or?
Yeah, so we literally are getting ready to finish up the studio. It's an in-home studio.
Nice.
And the room is, I think I told you this before, it might be a little bigger than this room, but not much because you really don't want a whole lot of space.
No, you want it to be small and intimate.
Yeah. And so it's downstairs in my house.
Nice.
Comes with a fireplace and a TV, not that size TV. That's an amazing TV right there. But and so we're getting ready to paint and we're trying to figure out what we want to do with each wall.
Yeah.
Like we're big into the 70s and 80s nostalgia. Yeah. Well, I am. Joe just is like, I'll go with it, I guess. It was a selling point for me to do the podcast. So like one wall I want to do like all different pictures. There's this one picture I love. You've seen Die Hard, right? Okay. Yeah. There's this picture that I found on social media that I'm blowing up and getting it framed. It's all the terrorists from Die Hard. They're sitting in the lobby of the Nakatomi building. They got suits on, and they're all posing like, and Hans Gruber is sitting in front on the big chair. They're all sitting around him, with their guns. And I forget what it says on the picture. It might say late to the party or something like that. I'm blowing this thing up. The size of one of these pictures you got over here on this wall.
Wow.
And so we want to make an 80s wall. And then we want to do like a health and nutrition, like different, whatever you want to call it, as far as people working out, like old 1970s and 80s bodybuilders.
Okay.
And,
Arnold.
Yeah, sure. And then on the other wall, so it's those framed pictures with those being the best you quotes.
Okay.
Opportunity. And then it says something and you have someone looking up the mountain. Are you going to
right.
take the opportunity, or are you going to fear the opportunity?
Right.
So, just like what each wall is going to be a theme.
So are you going to have like different angles, like different camera angles?
Something like this.
Okay.
A table maybe about this size with the mics set up, because we'll have in-studio guests as well as Zoom.
Right.
And then, the camera's set up for different angles and moving back and forth.
Yeah.
As, people are discussing, doing round table and things like that.
Cool.
But, it's a journey. We're going to be 2 years in April 7th. And we have a 5-year plan in place.
Nice.
And at the end of that 5-year plan, maybe there's a studio involved, whether it's a studio.
Right.
But that'll be when I'm no longer showing up and clocking in at Lansing Delta.
Right.
We want to broaden our horizons. We want to start doing. We're definitely going to do this. We're looking at how we're going to operate this. Being a fitness trainer and being that's part of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me a lot of questions, and sometimes it's hard to answer everybody's questions. So we're going to start doing something where people can buy packages down the road, where I'll do half an hour, 45-minute consultations twice a week.
Yeah.
With people, if they want to buy monthly packages, where I'll literally Zoom with them and take them through their journey and give them,
so it's almost like coaching in a sense.
Yeah. Basically life coaching from an exercise and nutritional standpoint.
Right. Right.
But, I'll tell you this, as a fitness trainer, you have to have some type of life coach capability as well.
Yeah.
You have to be able to listen to people's problems because professional trainers don't understand this sometimes. They're like, I got to listen to this lady's problems. And the problem here is that's part of her journey.
Yeah.
If you can't help her through that, how are you going to expect her to get out of this, this exercise program you're giving her?
Right.
And how do you expect her to focus on her eating and her nutrition?
Right.
If she's had all these problems that she can't handle,
right.
and she's looking for advice from you. So you have to almost be an ear. You have to be a sounding board,
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, exercising is it's like therapy in a sense.
Very
like
much.
If you have a personal trainer, you kind of rely on that person emotionally to bring you along into their journey.
You do. You really do. And as a trainer, you have to show the passion and the enthusiasm for it.
Right.
It can't be like, oh God, do I got to listen to this again? Because it's not going to work out. That's like the 1970s mentality.
Right.
This is not the 1970s anymore. So you have to be able to be willing to listen to people and try to guide them through that particular journey. I always tell my younger athletes when they come in, if we can, let's leave whatever just happened outside that door right there. Let's focus for 1 hour. I got my problems today too. I got to leave them right there.
Yeah.
While I focus on you. You focus on me.
Right.
Those problems are going to be there. So as soon as we're done, get a good workout in. This workout may even help you clarify in your head.
Right. Yeah.
What is the severity of the problem? Is it really that bad? Or maybe this might be a solution. It's amazing what exercise does for you from a cognitive standpoint. It's really is. Think about like what you do in the morning. I bet you that changes your day completely.
Completely.
Yeah.
I was just telling my wife that this morning because I didn't wake up.
Oh, so okay.
I slept in this morning, and we went to lunch after work because we got out early.
Right.
And had a burger and fries. Like just total gluttony.
So it's been a horrible day for you.
Yeah, I mean, just for that meal, but just like from the start, it was bad. And I told her, I'm like, I feel bad. Like eating that, I feel guilty because I feel like I didn't earn it. Like when I woke up this morning, I would feel fine if I ate a bad meal because I knew that like I woke up, I did my morning discipline. Not today. So today,
but the beauty of it is you're so well trained into your discipline mentally and physically.
I'll do it tomorrow.
You just do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you will.
I did work out today.
Yeah.
I still worked out. Yeah. So
okay.
I do that every morning, but I also work out in the afternoons.
Okay. So
every day.
So there was a few other things you didn't do today. You didn't journal.
I didn't journal, didn't read, didn't do
cold shower.
No cold shower. Okay. No push-ups. Well, actually I did my push-ups before I worked out. Body weight squats. I didn't do a plank. And I didn't do cardio. Usually every morning I do cardio. But I feel like the cardio aspect of things is kind of what puts everything into perspective, because you're pushing your body. Like when you wake up, you don't want to move. You don't want to do anything.
No.
And so when you can push yourself mentally to just move your body and get going for the day, even if it's like just even if you're walking, you're doing something. And so like pushing yourself to do something difficult kind of sets the tone for the day mentally. And then when you get off, when you're, spend 25 minutes on the elliptical and you get off of it and you do your 100 push-ups, 100 body weight squats in a 3-minute plank or whatever time you set, like you feel good. Like you're warmed up, your body's warmed up, you're ready to go for the day. Your mind is firing on all cylinders. And then you sit down and you can think clear.
Yeah.
It really helps.
Let me tell you something that was funny. I forgot to tell you about this. I'm at home in Ohio and my son has YouTube on TV. And he's like, Dad, this guy's doing that kettlebell stuff you do. I walk in, it's you.
No way.
On the YouTube, you're doing the swing and press.
Okay.
Yeah. The clean and presses.
Yeah. Long cycles.
Yeah. It was like, I was like, I like looked, I'm like, there's David on my, 52-inch TV in my living room. He goes like, Dad, awesome. He must've just seen it and just clicked on it because he saw the kettlebells.
Oh, okay.
So he sees me doing that. Yeah. So he's like, Dad, this guy does. And I go, I know him. He goes, really? He was like in shock for a second.
Oh, that's funny.
But it was just, I wasn't expecting that. You know what I mean? I like turned the corner. I'm like, yeah, that's Dave Hess. Okay.
That video blew up too.
Yeah.
I can't remember how many views it has, but it has a lot.
I saw that one blow up for you. No, another one that's blowing up is the gentleman again. Why do I keep
the president guy?
Yeah.
That one blew up.
Yeah.
Crap, what's his name? I can't think of his name. Anthony Hudson.
Yeah. I know. I saw it. Because I started looking. Once I clicked on the video to watch you do the kettlebell workout, then all your stuff started coming up.
Right.
So once you click on it, then you start seeing a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me to see certain videos. I'm like, why did that one blow up and this one didn't? Or like, why is that one? This just doesn't make any sense.
That's what I do. That's why my brother tells me stop, because I'll see a video that. So YouTube, we've only been on YouTube for not a few months, a couple months.
Okay.
And so it's like slowly, every time I look, there's more.
Right.
There's more.
Right.
There's like one day there's only 10 views. I'm like, 10? And he's like, yeah, but there was, 80 on Spotify. And we don't even know. Right. We don't know. There's probably like 300 people that listen to the show today.
Yeah.
We don't know what Breaker did and Stitcher.
Right.
I didn't even know, is it Stitcher?
Yeah, I think so.
So I didn't even know anyone listened to us on Stitcher. And then Joanne came up to me, lady that we work with, everybody. She's like, yeah, I listened to you guys
she smacked me today.
Yeah. She smacked you?
Yeah, because I jumped in front of my wife heading out the gate.
Oh, she don't like that.
Yeah, she smacked me.
Very ungentlemanlike, yeah. But she's like, yeah, I listened to you guys on Stitcher. I was like, wow, I didn't even know anybody listened to us on Stitcher. But there's all these platforms, which is cool. Anchor handed everything over to Spotify. It's Spotify for podcasters.
Well, now. Anchor was owned by Spotify.
Right.
Yeah. And so, now it's Spotify, like video, all video, right?
Yeah, it's Spotify. I don't know if it's just video or is it video and audio?
I don't know.
Joe, that's for Joe. Joe can answer that question. I
haven't used Anchor in a really long time, and I just started using it for the other podcast that I was doing. I was like, wow, they offer video like right away. You used to have 50 episodes, and it was then you could get video, but now it's right away.
Yeah, we had to do a new commercial. Because you do a commercial for Anchor. Now we did one for them. And we're at the point now where they're actually paying us more money per episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So folks, when you get on a podcast, you have to look at it's, people say, well, are you doing this for the money? You definitely don't do a podcast for the money.
No, but
it's nice to get the money.
Do you want to make money though? That's the thing. You want to make money. You have time, effort, and everything. It's right. You want to trade your time for something. It's
what you want to make a career out of if you're serious. Number one. Number two, you do need to make money in order to support the podcast.
Yeah.
These things don't cost $5.
No.
You know what I mean? The cameras, the TV. Well, the TV, that's a different story. Just like, setting up this room and who knows, someday you're flying in Joe Rogan to do the Rising Above podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're going to have to pay for that.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
You
definitely have like a lot of expenses when it comes to podcasting. Like for me, I stream some things. So like I have to pay for a streaming service, and then like there's some other stuff I pay for. But yeah, everything adds up.
Yeah. We paid our accountant this year. It was our first year. And I was just like, really? Because we didn't do that much in sales.
Right.
But boy, you would think we did. But the accountants that we go through are spot on. It's a team. They have an accountant. They have a tax attorney. They have, I think the one accountant is also a psychologist to talk us through everything after we're like biting our nails through the whole process. But they have a team and they are on top of it. If I email that accounting team, not even 30 seconds.
Wow.
Boom.
Let's do it right now.
They answer my question. I'm trying to. What can I ask Brad? Bradley Linton is my main guy contact. Bradley, if you're out there listening, this guy is on top of things, man. As soon as I text him, or not text him, as soon as I email him, and maybe not this late in the evening, but if I go into work tomorrow at 8:00, I guarantee you by 8:15, he has answered my question and asked, do I need to call him? Do I need to talk? And it's so we're willing to pay the money because of the quality of the work that the accountant does.
Right.
But yeah, when you're doing a podcast,
have you guys formed it as a business yet?
Yes, it's an LLC.
Nice.
Yeah. T-Bomb, Two Brothers, One Mic, LLC.
Cool.
I don't know. We're going to see where it goes.
Yeah.
Just doing basically the same thing you're doing.
Yeah.
There's this one guy, I tell you to keep watching him, Pat Flynn. He kind of like is a go-to for podcasters. If you watch any of his videos, he kind of gives like hints and tips and things like that. And he's talking about a couple things. I'm going to send you the link of this new format where a lot of AI involved in it, artificial intelligence.
Chat GPT.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you been doing it?
I haven't, but yeah, no, I know people that do it.
It's like fascinating. We like, I literally, if you look at my notes in my Google Docs, I broke the video he did down minute by minute, and I took notes on Google Docs, and I broke down the times for each thing, and I sent it to Joe.
Wow.
And Joe's like, wow, like he's like, I just watched it 3 times, but Joe understands that stuff.
Right.
Whereas I'm like, I have no idea what he's talking about. So, so we're looking into that, but it's scary too.
Yeah.
Because it's AI.
Yeah.
You just type in, I can go to your Rising Above community, and I could take your about information, copy and paste it. Yeah. And I could say, what are some of the best questions to ask David Hess when he's on Two Brothers One Mic based on his, and it'll give me 10 questions.
Yeah.
Like perfect questions to ask you. Yeah. Like within a matter of 5 seconds.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, and a lot of that has to do with that. I have information out there. Yeah. It like it scrapes the internet for information. Yeah. And then it just throws everything together.
And that's just the basic thing that I just told you about. There were things that I was watching him do that this thing was answering him. And I told Joe, I said, this is pretty cool. And at the same time, this is kind of scary where artificial intelligence is going, if it ends up in the wrong hands. Right. That's what makes me nervous.
Well, I'm sure there's like some advanced version of it that the government has or whatever.
You would think. Yeah, you would think. But it's just crazy how this thing knows. You could be very, very precise in the question you ask it. And it'll do you can ask it a specific question based on the podcast that we're doing today. Yeah. And it'll type out an entire, if you have a website, it'll put an entire, what's the word I'm looking for? Blog. It'll do an entire blog for you.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah. And so that's something we're looking into big time now. Mm. Yeah. You're either serious or you're not serious, when it comes to,
I mean, that's the thing, like with doing a podcast, you always have to innovate because to do it the same way every single time, it might work. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, people are going to get tired of it. So you have to try to re-innovate and make it better.
There's not only that, but everybody else out there is going to start doing it. Right. You kind of want to get ahead of the 8 ball.
Exactly.
Right? And you want to be the pioneer of obviously it's been around a little bit now, but I don't think, in the millions of podcasts that are out there, I don't think a lot of people are doing this yet. I think it's the beginning of it.
It's a big thing, though.
Yeah.
I do know a lot of people that are doing
millions
it.
are going to do it at once.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, do you sit back or do you jump in now?
No, you definitely jump in now.
Yeah, you jump in now.
You want to be involved. You got to be in it.
For this, you've got to be in it.
But no, that's a perfect tool for this.
It makes editing the show so much easier.
Oh, yeah.
It makes everything easier. Joe was taking an hour and 15 minutes to edit our shows. 15 minutes now.
Yeah.
Literally took an hour off.
Wow. By using ChatGPT?
Well, he's not using that yet, just using other tools that he has found.
Oh, okay.
So he knows how to edit shows, so he's doing it all by hand.
Yeah.
But then he is using these other things. We purchased a program to help editing.
Yep.
I don't know that he's going to keep this program now because of ChatGPT. There's different levels that you can buy into with that ChatGPT. So I don't know, there's like a professional level.
Okay.
I think there's a monthly service fee for it, but it just depends on what fits your podcast. What's necessary for your podcast to be successful. But it truly is incredible. I mean,
it really is.
But there's the good and the bad. When it comes to artificial intelligence, it's just.
Well, I think the majority of people will use it for good.
Majority.
Yeah.
But it only takes
one person.
Listen, it only took what? Was it 6 to 8 men to cause on September 11th to cause all that chaos and kill over 3,000 people? It doesn't take a small group to it doesn't take a large group to cause, the kind of chaos that could really
ensue. Yeah. They would have to shut down the internet. Yeah, this website's like interesting.
So,
yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
For sure. If you're out there and you're a podcaster, I encourage you to look into it for sure. Yeah, Pat Flynn is really he's great to listen to. His platform is more on basically I think it's more about finances.
Okay.
Yeah, and how to handle retirement and how to invest and what's going on right now and how do you handle these situations in a bear market and a bull market.
Right.
401k plans, IRAs. I think that's basically what he's all about, and that's the kind of guest he has on his show.
Okay.
But he also does this tutorial where he talks to podcasters and says, "Hey, listen, this is something you may want to try." He's the gentleman who said that I always stick to this. If you're a podcaster, you can't think about how many people are subscribed to your channel.
Right.
If you have 100 people, put them in a small room with you and be amazed at the fact that 100 people are sitting in that room in that chair listening to you talk.
Yeah.
And reset your mind on what you're looking to do.
Even if you have 50 people.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
Could you imagine 20 people in this room right here?
I'd be nervous.
Yeah.
Like I got to talk in front of all these people?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's kind of cool. I don't know that I would care really about talk. Because I do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think my senses would be heightened, of fear.
Right.
Like don't mess this up. In the back of your head, and then I would try to dismiss it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's the beauty about podcasts. Like you don't even really have to think about the audience, and you could just talk about whatever, and then you just forget about it once you leave.
Yeah. My sister is an anchor for KARE 11 News Minneapolis, St. Paul. There's like over 100,000 people, I think, listening to her on a daily basis. She doesn't think about that. She has anxiety.
I could imagine.
She has social anxiety. So she's like, literally 100,000 people are watching me on a daily basis, but I'm just talking to a camera.
Right.
It's when she goes to events. She gets invited to events to speak.
Right.
She's like, wow, there's like 700 people sitting out here in this.
So many fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have so many people. Almost everybody who comes to the podcast for the first time, they see the cameras and then they freeze. It's like don't even worry about those things.
Yeah,
you're not live. Don't worry about it. Although I get nervous before lives too. Like if I go live on like
Facebook
on Facebook or the podcast, I get like anxiety about it.
I don't know that I get anxiety on Facebook. I think I just don't. I don't know why. Maybe I should. I don't know. I mean, it depends. Like, lot of times when I go live, it's just to talk about what's going on the podcast.
Right.
Sometimes it's to be goofy.
Right.
Like the one I did that blew up when I was outside in the parking lot at Lansing in a snowstorm.
Oh,
I was talking to the kids of Generation Z about what we had to do as opposed to what they're doing now. About learning how to like walk to the end of the driveway in the snowstorm, to do small baby steps first before you have to walk all the way to the stop sign for the bus. And I was like walking to work and people were like, dude, loved you on Facebook live. I was like, wow, that's weird.
That's funny.
Yeah. So I don't know, but that's the day in the life of what's going on right now.
That's cool. Well, I don't really know what this episode was about.
It was about anything and everything.
Yeah, anything and everything.
Podcasting and artificial intelligence and the good and the bad. And we're going in with people losing their mind. And I mean, that's kind of scary. That guy is there's a list out there of 20 people.
Talking about the shooter?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. I actually let me pull it up because I seen it and I didn't actually get to read the whole thing.
Charged up again?
Yeah, it's charged. Let's see here. Eventually, I'll have somebody who does this for me.
I thought wasn't your brother involved in that at one point?
Yeah.
And he said he walked more money, wanted more money. Outside with a picket sign.
I think he just got here actually, but no, I just didn't ask him for help today. I've actually been doing this on my own recently. Eventually I want to buy a piece of equipment where I don't have to do this. I can just look things up and just switch it back and forth easier than having the computer and whatnot. So this is the note. It says, "Hi, my name is Anthony McCrae. There's a group of us, 20 of us, and I'm the leader. I will be shooting up MSU, and some of the other groups will be
going to Colorado
Springs to shoot up." And then they redacted the name. They hurted me.
Yeah.
Another team of my group will be going to New Jersey, and they will shoot up blank high school and middle school. They hurted me. Another team of my group will finish off the city of Lansing. Here's a list of our targets. And they listed a school in East Lansing, or at least a place in East Lansing, a place in Old Town, right around the corner, blank company, blank road, I think, a church on blank street, another place on the north side of my hometown, lovely, fuck all you racist motherfuckers.
Wow.
And then like at the top of the page, you see he wrote, they hurted me, someplace in Holt, Michigan, and some other places, DeWitt Township. My father has nothing to do with this. I'm tired of being rejected, an outcast, a loner. People hated me. They made me who I am today, a killer. No one noticed me. They hate me. They hate me without a... What is that?
Without a cost?
Yeah.
I think that's what it says.
Something like that. Everywhere I go, people treat me different. I don't want to be I don't want to be an American African. What? I'm a person. Why do people hate me? They never accepted me. 10 years since I had sex. They hate me. Why?
I mean, this is somebody with a lot of deep issues.
Yeah, so I think he had like some sort of mental like health problem.
Yeah.
Hey buddy, shut the door. Nope, shut the door. We're wrapping up.
Cameo.
But yeah, so yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
And they released that like a couple weeks ago.
That's somebody reaching out for help big time right there. I don't know how people listening to that and reading it on the screen here while you were saying it, there's no way that this wasn't well known. There's no way he kept all that inside.
There's no way.
I mean, people had to know he was having problems.
Somebody posted on one of the Facebook groups I'm in that they knew him, and they're like, I knew him like years ago, and his mom died or something, and from that moment on, he wasn't the same. And so he was like 40 some years old.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like you sit here and you're disgusted with what he did, and you can't even fathom if that was one of your loved ones that he killed.
Yeah.
I don't fault anybody for wanting, him to be alive and be alone with him in a room and strangle him. And,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you're looking at this and you're just thinking, man, what's going on with our healthcare system that, people like this are out there, and there's no way that someone didn't see that this guy needed healthcare, right? That he needed some type of mental health.
Yeah. Well, I think I seen something where he knew he had a problem but refused help. So
I don't know.
I don't know.
Mental health is a major issue. Major issue.
It's huge today, and that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
But
beer for another 3 hours.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's something that needs to be done, but what could you do? I mean, there's a mental health crisis right now, and like even for like somebody like us who we have good health insurance, it's difficult for us to get therapists because there's a waiting list like that's a mile long.
Yeah, I guess the good thing about that is people are getting help.
They're getting help, but it takes forever.
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah, I think with that we should wrap this up.
Wrap it up.
All right. So where can people find your podcast?
Two Brothers, One Mic. There's no numbers in there. It's TWO, Two Brothers, One Mic, ONE.
Two Brothers, One Mic on Facebook.
Yeah, you can find us on Facebook. You could find us on TikTok at the number 2 BROS. I think it's _MIC. That's where I'm at. And then my brother has T-Bomb Show, TBOM_SHOW. And then we're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We don't have a website yet. That's our next move. And then we're on every platform you could think of when it comes to our show. If you go to type in Two Brothers, One Mic on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on Google, we're on Facebook, we're on we're on Breaker, Stitcher, Apple. We're everywhere. So
everywhere.
Yeah,
just Google it.
Just Google it. You can't miss us.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this, Sarge.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me here on the Rising Above podcast with David Hess. If you're not listening to this show, what's wrong with you?